All right, well, today I am on with my friend, my former student, my now colleague in the industry, Jesselyn Dudinsky. Jesselyn, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Jilla. I'm so happy that I got to talk to you today.
Well, thanks for making time. It's Thanksgiving week, and I know everybody's crazy, but I really appreciate your time and you sharing all of this with me and with all of the listeners out there and the students that are coming up in the position that you were just a few years ago,
hmm
getting ready to graduate, sort of wondering what life was going to be like. And I thought it would be a great conversation to have with you, seeing as that you've done some of that and you're just getting started and getting some roots down. And so, why don't you dive in and let us know sort of. Let's start with internships from college. So when you were still in college looking for jobs, looking for internships, was that helpful and how did that go for you?
Yeah, so man, I I applied to a lot of different internships. At the time when I was looking around, I was really interested in film scoring. And I'm still kind of in that vein, but I'm mostly going more of a composition and production route, as well as my own music. But anyways, so we're in peak 2020 quarantine.
Nothing's
there are
happening.
nothing is happening. And so I applied mostly to places in LA and New York because at the time I wasn't really interested in Nashville. I kind of had the mindset of everything going on in Nashville was country music related,
hmm
and I had no idea, honestly. And so I applied for a few different places in LA, and they did call me back and they said, we would love to have you, but we're not even letting our family members into the studios.
Right.
So I was like, okay, next one. And there were other studios that said, we might be bankrupt by next week. So
Oh man.
it's a really depressing, sad time. And because of all this, no one in New York even called me back.
Right.
So, like, I was just kind of at a loss. I didn't know where to go, what to do. And so then I start thinking to myself, I guess I need to start looking into Nashville, seeing what is there. And I remember it was the summer, about a month before I needed to be moving. So I
Right.
did not have much time. And I was looking at places, but I couldn't really find anything. So my dad sat down with me one night and he asked me, "So how's the internship hunt going?" And I said, "I can't really find anything." And I've kind of at that point had given up for a few days. And he said, "Jesselyn, God's not going to drive a parked car. You just
Oh, that's
need to
great.
you just need to get in the car, start going in some general direction,
hmm
and God is going to steer it.
Yep.
And so that's kind of what I did. I just started looking up random things that I didn't even know if I'd be interested in. And so, super off the cusp, I had a friend that came over and she spent the night. And my family, we grew up watching VeggieTales.
Right.
And so we always grew up quoting, the Madame Blueberry episode and all the songs and everything. And so I guess my dad had cracked a joke that was referring to Madame Blueberry, one of the episodes in
Yeah.
VeggieTales. And and so my friend was kind of lost and she didn't understand what we were doing. And we were like, "Have you never seen VeggieTales before?" She's like, "No, I've never heard of it." And
Oh
so we
man.
were like, "Oh gosh, well, you got to go watch." So we went into the living room and we turned it on. And then my dad said, "Jesselyn, wouldn't it be cool if you could intern with the guy that does the silly songs with Larry?" Um, and so then I ended up literally, like, Madame Blueberry is a movie that is from like early mid 90s or something like that, I went and I watched the credit roll at the end of the show
Wow.
to see like music by. And so I saw Kurt Heineke. And so I ended up searching him online. I didn't even know if he was still in the business or anything, but
Yeah.
I found his website, and when I was going through it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly the kind of person I'd want to work for. And so then I sent him an email through there, but he did not reply for about 2 weeks. So being persistent, which is what everyone needs to be, you got to find another way to contact people. So I went on Facebook and I found him. And so I sent him a private message. I didn't even know if he would see it, because usually when you get a message from someone you're not friends with, it goes into this random box and you might not see it for months.
Right.
And so anyways, I just sent that out on a limb and I said, hey, I don't know if you got my email, but I sent you an email to your website. My name is Jesselyn, blah, 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 blah. And so he ended up replying like a week later. And he said, hey, well, everything works on here fine, so you can just forward the email to me on here. So I did that, introduced myself, talked about what I was looking for, kind of internship things. And so he told me that he had never had an intern before, and so he didn't really know what that would look like, but he was interested in still getting my resume and portfolio, so he could pass it on to other people that he was colleagues with.
Right.
And so the second I got that, I immediately put together my resume and portfolio and all of those things. And I sent it to him the very day that I got that email from him.
Right.
And that actually ended up making a very big impression on him. He told me later on, because spoiler alert, I got the internship, but anyway, so he told me later on that because he had received it so promptly and it was so concise, organized, and it looked really nice and everything, that was a big decider in the thing, because regardless of what my musical ability was, he knew that I put effort into the things that I cared about.
That's fantastic.
And so that is just a big thing for anybody. If you may have a ways to go in what you're learning or honing your craft, as long as you work harder than the other people in the room, then that's really all that matters, because everyone will recognize that. But anyways, long story short, he read through it and he texted me back the next day and he said, hey, I don't really know how this is going to look, but I want to do an internship with you. And so I moved to Nashville in August of 2020, and I started working for him. And he also talked with one of his friends who was an owner of what used to be Paragon Studios, now is Insight Studios. It's in Franklin, Tennessee. And so talked to his friend, Fred, and got me another part-time internship. So I was working half with Kurt and half at Paragon, doing audio engineer things. And granted, I'm not in the audio engineer field, but I thought it would be really important to me, because wanting to be a producer and being in the studio and working with musicians and audio engineers, it's really important to know how to communicate effectively with your engineers, know how to speak their language, understand what they're doing, so you have a full appreciation and grasp of what they do, because their part is just as instrumental as your part that you serve.
Of course.
Because if you've got a crappy mix of a good song, then no one's going to want to listen to it, no matter how good it is. So yeah, I loved that. And also I kind of created my own internship in the ways of, if I was working at the studio and I met somebody during a session that I really wanted to talk to or wanted to ask questions to, I'd get their contact info, and then the next day or later that week, I would go get coffee with them or lunch or whatever, and I would just ask them questions. And that really was the biggest the biggest help that I had in my internship, because Kurt stressed over and over again, networking, networking, networking. That's the reason I've gotten any of the jobs that I have today.
Networking is
um,
king.
yeah, it's like, it doesn't matter if you meet someone in the grocery store. If they say that they're involved in music and you guys get to talking, get
Hmm.
their phone number and then get coffee with them later.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that you're building up and you're following up and you're developing relationships with these people. And then you have the skills and the, like he said, you had the work ethic and the professionalism that backed it up. So you have to have all those things in line,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Um, Definitely the biggest thing that I heard from a lot of people, all these people that I got to talk to or be in the room with, they're they're older than me and so much more advanced in their careers, and so they've really attained like all of these things that I wanted and saw for myself, but they all would kind of tell me, like, don't worry about where you are right now,
Hmm.
because like the things that we're doing right now, you don't really get to do when you're 20 years old.
Right.
That is kind of like you've reached the top of the ladder and you're getting all of these cool projects and all these things. And just the biggest thing is to work hard and to be patient.
Yeah.
um, because there's a lot of people who they may work hard and they may be really talented, but if they don't have the patience to wait around and
Hmm.
see something come to fruition, then they may be passing up a future opportunity that could catapult them to that next level that they need to be at.
Yeah, that's great
um,
advice.
yeah, patience and working hard, I think, is and networking. Those are the three biggest things in order to make it in the business, in any area of the business, really.
Yeah, that's really sound advice for everybody. I love this. The other thing I would add to that is what you did in this whole process is that I love this story. And, I talk about you in my classes when I talk about thinking outside the box, and you kind of have to sometimes make your own opportunities.
Yeah.
You have to see where your potential is, and you have to go try things that, you know, are maybe just like, I have no clue if this was going to work, but, like your dad said, you kind of have to take a step. You have to be
Yeah.
doing something and trying something. And who knew, especially I love the fact that you were persistent and you contacted him again. A lot of people after not hearing back for 2 weeks would just give up.
Yeah. Yeah. I was definitely feeling a little weird about it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of you do it a few times, then you get used to it. Like stepping into cold water. Like the
Right.
more and more you get wet, the more comfortable you'll be. um,
And as a
so yeah,
diver, you would know that.
yes, yes, fellow dive buddies.
Yes. So I
Man.
I can't imagine that any of this was what you thought it was going to be like when you were in
Um,
school.
um, yeah, I think a good thing that helped me when I was in college was I had no idea what the future was going to look like, and I didn't try to invent what my future would look like.
Interesting.
Um, I definitely had ideas of what I wanted to do, and I definitely had goals for myself, but I wasn't too concerned about the small play-by-play picture of what the entry level was going to be. If
Right.
you're going into, say, like a multi-million dollar company, you're not going to start out being the CEO. You're going to
Correct.
start
Yes.
out you're going to be the foot soldier. You might even be the janitor, you
In the
know?
in the mail room. Yes.
Yeah. And so I was not really concerned with how it was going to happen, because I knew that God had opened the doors for me,
Mhm.
to get to Troy, to even decide to do music.
Mhm.
And then through COVID getting an amazing internship.
Yeah.
I'm a super go with the flow person, so I think that definitely helps to my advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that there's other people that are less like that and, super organized, and they have to figure out, everything before we get there.
Right.
And I'm kind of like, whatever happens, happens, as long as I'm working hard and moving in the direction that I want to be moving, then everything's going to be okay,
That's a great outlook and really great for your stress level too.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight is 2020. I'm talking like I knew this from the very beginning, but it definitely, I had to go through my moments where I was kind of sitting there, I mean, for instance, like in terms of having to make opportunities happen for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
After I graduated, I got a cleaning job. So I have been cleaning a house every Tuesday and Thursday for the past almost 2 years, approaching that. And, it's not glamorous. I was also cleaning Airbnbs, trying to get by because once you get out of your internship, you're not going to immediately find these music opportunities unless you're one of the 1% that's just extremely lucky.
Right.
But this past summer, I'm kind of, drudging along. I have a music project here and there, but nothing really substantial. And so I was talking to my fiance about how I really wanted to like get in the room and be in the studio. And he had been working on a project. So we were at the studio, at someone's studio during a recording session. And so we were talking, and I was kind of just voicing, throwing a pity party of sorts.
Right.
I really want to do this, and I just have no idea how to get in there. And so he was like, well, how about you just take another internship? And it's something that I had been considering, but never really gave a lot of thought to, because in my mind, I was thinking, that's more work I'm doing for free. And I don't know if I have the time to be able to do that, nor can I afford to do that?
Right.
Because I'm barely scraping by as it is. And so then I just kind of decided, there was a producer that was in the studio that day that I had really looked up to. I met him during my original internship, and I loved his career. His name is David Wise, and he used to be a performer at Disney, but now he's a big producer in Nashville and arranger. And I just love watching him work, and I'd love to do, almost everything that he does, but kind of just in a Jesselyn fashion.
Right.
Yeah, not trying to be anybody else except myself, but definitely modeling a career after his. And so I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go back into the studio and ask him for an internship. And so he knew, just from watching me over the past 2 years, he knew I was a hard worker. And during my internship, he was one of those guys that I went over to a studio to observe him work, and I'd ask him questions and all these things. So he knew that I was doing the footwork. And so when I went back and asked him, he was just like, immediately he said yes. He was like, yeah, I think I would love to work with you and, be able to give back and pay it forward to the next generation. Because, we're not going to be alive forever. There's got to be someone that comes behind us. So you need to train the next generation in order to do and hold the high quality work that you hold yourself to. So music can continue to get better and move forward. So yeah, I started working for him, I guess, end of August or beginning of September, and I'm still working for him. He's great, and he throws opportunities my way for any kind of work that he can pay me for, that there is budget for. And because of him, I have made so many more connections that are now going to be future work connections.
Right.
And it's because, I swallowed my pride and I took the second internship after I had been, in the workforce for, a year and a half. And sure, I've been forfeiting a lot of time, but it's truly a business investment. And
it's
because
learning too, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm learning so much. I'm, doing the work for free, or not all of it, but some of it. And because of that, like, he's sitting there and talking me through how he does things. And when we'll sit down at lunch and we'll be talking, he talks about any kind of random topics of, managing your finances in your business, and how to budget time for a studio, and how to find the right people to book, and all of these different things. And I'm just learning so much just from simply being in the room.
What an education you're getting. That's amazing.
Yeah, I am learning just an unfathomable amount that you will not learn in college.
Right.
You cannot learn unless you just go out and, get your education from the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Oh, that university. Yes.
That university. I'm hopefully like a junior upperclassman by now.
That's great.
But so yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy ride, and I don't know where I would be if I hadn't have continued to be persistent and just ask people questions and not be afraid to ask them questions.
Well, and the other thing, from my perspective, having years looking at this, something else that you continue to do right is you continue to do great work. And what you may not be aware of, just like he said, and you just mentioned, you may not be aware of while you're doing it, but people are watching you.
Yeah.
People watch if you show up and you do what you say you will do and you turn in great work. People make notes of the people that do that and the people that don't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're seeing that in your life up there. There are some people that do that and are moving forward, and others that seem to be falling back. And largely it's a lot of times, sadly, just because they're just not applying themselves and turning in the work when people are actually looking.
Yeah, it's truly a lot of the people that I guess I came in with, and I may see myself, relatively advancing farther than they have, or they really haven't progressed much in the past 2 years, is definitely the work ethic thing, or because they get, discouraged or scared, thinking they're not good enough, and then they just, kind of give up. And definitely from listening to the different producers and composers that I've been blessed enough to be in their shadow and just listen to them, when they talk about other people, possibly, they may say, oh yeah, he's a really, really great worker. She like puts in 100% effort, and she's got a great attitude, and blah, blah, blah. And then there's some other people that maybe they hired a session musician and they just didn't have a great attitude, or they showed up late, or they, not necessarily like messing up a lot, or maybe if they were messing up a lot and they just weren't, bringing their A game.
Right.
They're like, we're giving you these opportunities, and these opportunities are not solid. Like, there's so many people behind you that are working just as hard or harder than you.
Yeah.
And so, like, we've got plenty of people to go through. And it really just always humbles you, and teaches you that you need to constantly be working. And there's one guy that I shadowed a lot in my internship, and his name is David Ships, and I still work with him today. But anyways, he was telling me when I was an intern in 2020 There was this one time when he was working really hard, doing everything, and then all of a sudden all the work stopped. And so he's sitting there, his office is next to a Lowe's, and so he's out looking at the window, looking at the Lowe's, thinking, is today the day that I'm going to go into Lowe's and get a job,
right?
Because I'm not making any money. And so then he had this choice of, do I buy Pro Tools and do I learn Pro Tools, which at the time he didn't need it and he never had a need for it, or do I go get a solid job, solid income. And he chose to buy Pro Tools. And the very next job he got was because he learned Pro Tools and he knew Pro Tools. And every job he's had since then is because he knew Pro Tools.
Right.
And so the whole lesson in that is basically, when there's a lull in the moment and you don't have any work to do, don't sit on your butt.
Yeah.
Like, use that time, that downtime, to sharpen your tool belt, add to your tool belt, bring more to the table. So you constantly just learning, how can I be heightening my game? How can I make my craft better? How can I be more efficient? How can I, the list goes on and on, of improvements. And those are the people that continue to evolve in their careers and move forward, rather than the people say they'll do the same thing and they may be really good at it, but then they never get any better, or they don't diversify. And then one day all of those kinds of projects will stop and they'll be left in the dust.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely all that kind of stuff. I feel like I'm rambling now, but
no, but and I think another really great point is sort of the diversification, right? Sort of multiple streams of income, but you have to be really great. Like, pick 2 or 3 different streams. Don't pick 15, but pick 2 or 3 different things that you can do and do really well at the top of your game, so that if one dries up for a minute, you still have some other stuff going.
Yeah, for sure. I've been of the former, when you said 12 or 15 different streams. I've had to learn how to pare down and really focus in on what I want to do. And so with that came, like I mentioned earlier, I was originally going in for film scoring, and then I kind of, I scored a short film earlier this summer, and from that experience, I realized that it wasn't what I really wanted. And so say if any of that work comes my way, then sure, that'll be great. I'll take any music work I can get, but that's not what I'm gunning for, because that's not my ultimate goal.
Right.
And so it's been really helpful for me, very helpful for my mental health.
Yes.
To try to, just cut something loose, Jesselyn.
Well, I say this and I preach this, and I know that it's really hard because it's hard for me, but I think it's just hard for all of us. We have to schedule our priorities. And I think we as people and humans have to be the first priority, which means your health and your happiness have to come first, or none of the rest of it is good work and none of it matters, and you're not going to be happy doing any of it anyway, because you're going to be so stressed out and so burnt out. So learning to put those boundaries and even discover what like you said, what are my priorities?
Yeah. And we've had so many conversations about this.
Yes.
You have truly been like my voice of reason. Truly since the day I met you.
That's awesome.
And I'm so thankful for you.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Your students are so lucky.
I'm thankful for you in my life. You have a wonderful energy, and just you are a human that I am so thankful and grateful that I have met and that you are in my life. So it's both ways.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah, about the priorities and everything. I kind of just you just have to sit down and even start journaling. Journaling
Hmm.
helps a lot. I even would just journal things that like it just made no sense. It was just the stream of consciousness in my head.
Or scream. I
Um,
like that too.
or scream, the stream of consciousness. Is that a song?
It might be a song. You should write it.
I'll let you know when I finish it.
Okay.
But just when I'd start writing, thinking about what makes me happy. And when I look at my life 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, what do I want it to look like? And from there, you really can see where the meat is and where the fat is. And what do you need to start trimming off? What's not serving you? And also what's not making you happy, because if you're in the industry just to like make money and have fame and success, then I strongly urge you to look somewhere else.
Yes. Good advice.
Yeah. So
But in this way too, I think in doing that, you have also been able to free up time to do charitable works. And I want to talk about what you're doing with your nonprofit too, because I think you can get so busy that you forget not only, about how this is all serving you, but about how you can serve other people. And so will you talk a little bit about what you're doing there?
yeah. So it's also one of those moments where I made a connection with somebody. So last year, I guess the summer of 21, I'd sold my car, and so I, got not that much money for it, but I got money.
Yeah.
And and so I tithe, and so I wanted to give 10% of it either to my church or to a charity or something like that. And so I just kind of had it sitting in my room. I didn't know where I wanted it to go yet. And I was at my small group with my church, and the leader of the group, he said that he had a friend whose name was Angel and ran this nonprofit doing mission work in Haiti. And at the time, Haiti had just been hit by those massive earthquakes that really just destroyed things so bad. And he said, if they're collecting money so that they can buy tools and, chainsaws and things that you can use to, move the rubble, move the trees, and start to make life a little bit normal again. And so that really struck a chord with me because I'm from Panama City, and in 2018 we got hit by Hurricane Michael. And the thing that really, really made the most beautiful thing that happened out of that entire ordeal was we would be sitting in our front yard looking at just massive amounts of 100-year-old plus oak trees. And we had no idea how we were going to move these things. And we didn't have gas, we didn't have like enough chainsaws, or our chainsaws would break, and all of these things. And so I remember there was this group from further down west, down the coast, and they came in with a car, and they just had everyone filled, and they had gas, and they had chainsaws, and so many people just came in from nowhere to help us. And that made such an impact on me of seeing like people cared, and they saw us, and they saw what we were going through, and it really united humanity and restored your faith in humanity for a little bit. And that was really great. So I wanted to pay it forward because I had been blessed by so many other people that helped us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to donate my 10% to Mission of Truth. And so I really just, I got the cash and I put it in an envelope. And that night I slid it in her mailbox. And so I didn't have a name on it or anything. I didn't want her to know like
Mm-hmm.
who I was or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she ended up calling the group leader and said, was there someone from your group who like donated money? And so then Mark asked if he could pass my name along, and I said yes. And so then Angel, she immediately contacted me and she took me out for dinner, and we really became friends after that. So we've been friends for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd catch up and get coffee, and she's a wonderful woman, not in the music industry. Well, her husband actually used to be a drummer, but it's like everyone's always been involved in the music industry when they live in Nashville.
Right, in some way.
In some way. And so I really made friends with Angel and her husband and her family. And it was just one of those things where a month ago she asked me if I was looking for some extra work, some extra side income to run. She needed someone to run social media for Mission of Truth. And so I am able to, so I immediately agreed because I love working with Angel. She's just an amazing woman. And this organization is really her baby that she started 4 years ago. And they work in Haiti. There's 3 different orphanages and about 170 children.
Wow.
And so they provide meals every week, and they pay teachers to come to the orphanages and teach the kids. And they also have some security guards for the orphanages. And they also have a psychologist and a nurse. But their big emphasis is on mental health. And that's a big thing that is not addressed with nonprofits a lot in terms of poverty. And they're concerned about like feeding the kids or giving them water or things like that, which are all super important and needed.
Right.
But a huge element is mental health that's not being addressed. And so with that, it's like if you're constantly in survival mode and you're only thinking about where is my next meal coming from,
right,
or how do I protect, my little sister and my little brother?
Yeah.
Then you're not thinking about, let me make a little bit money here and save it and then put it towards something else, invest in this, and then move up, in the ladder.
Right.
None of that is on their radar. And it's because of this trauma that they have suffered as kids. And
that trauma stays with you.
It stays with you.
It's not something that you just get over. It's something that embeds deeply in your body, and it stays with you until adulthood.
Yeah. And that's like the big thing they're trying to combat is
that's great
childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And so when they go in and work with these kids and help them, sort through all of this that they've gone through in their lives. They may only be 6 and they've dealt with so much more than we could never imagine. And so because of that, they're able to move up in the world, and they're now sending some of their kids who are aging out of the orphanage. They're paying for them to go to college, like vocational school, to operate like heavy machinery to build roads in Haiti. And they just sent one to go to vocational school to learn computer science.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, all of these things that are really needed. And I just know when I looked at the organization and saw what they were really about, I knew that it was one of those nonprofits who they weren't, skimming off the top and it going to themselves, Angel barely uses anything for, her own survival, and everything else goes to the children. And so I just really wanted to be a part of a nonprofit that I believed in and that I trusted.
And so how can people get a hold of you? How can they contact and donate money to the nonprofit?
So you can go to missionoftruth.org and you can just look through everything that they cover. So they have trauma therapy, nutrition and medical care, life skills and
Mm-hmm.
vocational training, all these different things that they address. And you can donate through missionoftruth.org, or you can look up Mission of Truth on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and you can donate through there as well. And Giving Tuesday is starting, I guess, next week. I don't know when this episode will be released, but that'll be the 29th, and it'll run through the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is $35,000. And with that, it'll be paying paying a 13th month salary to our to the workers in Haiti, because that's a Haitian custom to get a 13th month at the end of the year. And that's something they've never been able to provide, but they would really love to be able to do that.
Right.
And it gives, it goes towards, Christmas presents for the kids, and like all of these different things, meals, and, everything that they need. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, I'll link that in the show notes for sure. So if people want to go there and check it out, they can.
Yeah.
And, again, back to you and things that I just think are so cool about what you're doing is, I know everyone in your generation does social media, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you've ever run a social media campaign for an organization before.
No, I have not. I'm really, truly taking it one day at a time and learning it. And that was also something I learned in my internship, is when I was talking to people, they'd say yes. And if you don't know how to do it, figure out how to do it.
Yep. Exactly.
Find a way.
Exactly.
And so that's what I'm doing. And, it's really it's not that hard once you start to push yourself to learn new things.
Well, and again, thinking outside the box helps in this way. Like, I don't know this, where can I go find this, or what else could I do? What else would be, I think, great social media people do that all the time, right? Marketers, what else could we do? What other kinds of content? What else, but that attitude that you have, like I said, you said, say yes, and then figure it out. Like, that's just amazing. Yes. That's awesome.
Say yes, then figure it out.
Yep. So you've got all this stuff going. You're working for the nonprofit. You're working still at this point in the internship, but I think very soon that's going to lead you into something amazing. If I'm not, overstepping here, I think you're going to have amazing opportunities from this.
Yeah, I'm going to get to work on, well, I don't know if I can actually say it. So I'm going to get to work on a really, really big project for a very big company.
Good.
And that's going to happen in December and January, that I'm really excited about. And I also got some programming work coming in the works starting January 1st.
Nice.
So that'll be really awesome. And, anything else that happens after that.
But this is all great. And you're planning a wedding.
Yes, I am also doing that.
So how do you balance? Because I know that, and again, this goes back to that whole boundaries thing, right? I know that, like, really paring down and saying, these are the things that are really important to me that I really want to put my time into. But still, everything that you're doing, you're busy. How do you balance life, work? How is that? How are you working? How are you managing that?
Waking up early, for sure.
Oh, gee.
That was something that you put me onto, I think, my junior year of college. You were like, just wake up at 5 or 6 and you'll be so amazed at how much more you get done. Because you get caught in this rat race of, you got these classes, you got rehearsal, you don't finish homework and blah 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 until like 10, and then say you want to work on something for yourself, there's no way
Yeah.
that you can do that. And so really I knew that I was more productive in the morning than I was at night.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be the same for everybody. So
Right.
maybe late night is better for others. But personally for me, getting up early and doing my homework when I was in college, or now getting up early and, taking that 30 minutes or an hour to just have time to myself, make coffee, walk outside, and, do my quiet time and all of these things to really like center myself, get ready for the
Mm-hmm.
day. Then I start working, and say it may be noon, but I've already been working for 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
And gotten so much done. And so then say by 3:00, I'm done with my work day, and I can, take a break, or I can go work out, or just something fun extra for myself that I want to do, say for my music career, or writing a song, or working on a composition or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to do that. So I definitely have to have a planner. I'm one of those people, I have to physically write it down.
Yeah.
Because if I type it in my phone, like there's just not enough neurons and everything being connected in my brain.
Right.
So I'm not going to remember it all, but writing it down helps me a lot. And I say, I'll work for 3 hours doing Mission of Truth things this morning, and then I'll work for 4 hours doing music stuff. Or say I still clean. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 to 4, I'm cleaning, but in the morning I've got like a 3 or 4 hour chunk to work on Mission of Truth or work on music or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So I always have these chunks, and I designate, okay, what am I focusing on in this moment? And something I didn't mention, but like is a really big part of what I like. A big part for me is when I'm cleaning, I'm still making the opportunities to put it towards music. So the things that I do for music while I'm doing something like that or mindless work, I'm listening to podcasts.
Mm.
I listen to your podcast.
Thank you.
And I listen to audiobooks. I listen to albums as well, because
Mm-hmm.
I pick certain artists that I really like their music, and I start song 1 to the very most recent song, so I can see their musical evolution. I can see the production and the mixing and like all the different things that they've done, and that really helps me a lot. Just honing my production skills, and also thinking of, expanding my horizons, seeing what else there is out there musically that I may not be tapped into.
Yeah.
And I also write songs when I'm cleaning or doing some kind of mindless work. So I'll just like put it on my voice memos while I'm doing the laundry.
Right.
And I'm just like writing a song. So you can always be doing something.
Oh yeah, that time I do a lot of that sometimes when I walk or drive, because I drive a lot.
Yeah. Yes, you too.
So a podcast that I want to shout out to this lady. Her name is Jenna Kutcher with a K. You should listen to her. She's awesome.
I'm writing her down right now.
And the podcast is called Goal Digger, like GOAL Digger. It's cool. And she covers such a wide variety of topics, but I think you'll really dig her. Anyway, go listen. Jenna, shout out to you because your podcast is awesome.
Nice. I always am in the market for another podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Me too. Always looking for more stuff to listen to and just feed your brain. So, speaking of that, so you have all these plans. Have you set like, I mean, you're doing all this stuff and it's all going, but how do you go about, like, at the beginning of every year, do you assess? Do you say, okay, where would I like to be? What have I done in this year? Where would I like to be? If I had the perfect next year, what would it look like? Do you make those kinds of things?
I actually I want to do it this year. I guess this would be my first year of truly doing it.
Okay.
I have looked, I guess I've like set goals kind of in the past, the New Year's resolutions or whatever, but I haven't really like career focused wise. I would like to be, I guess, just more strategic about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I'm going to be delving into for the whole, month of December. Just take some time aside and kind of look through all that and see, what do I have time for? What all do I want to accomplish? Am I able to accomplish all that in a year?
Yeah. Remember to look back, though, to see where you've come and give yourself the pat on the back, because sometimes we get so in the weeds with what we're doing that we don't realize how much we've done in a year. So be sure you give yourself the like, wow, yeah, like you've done a lot in this year.
Yeah, I sometimes just don't even realize, and I'm like, oh, Jesselyn, you haven't done anything, in the past week or whatever. Yeah, it's something I definitely have to remind myself of constantly, because I am a class A workaholic.
Yes, you are. But again, to a certain point, that's part of, the drive and the passion that you have to be excellent at everything you do has gotten you and is moving you ahead in the industry,
Yes, that is very, very true.
So, well, what I would love to do, if this is okay, is sort of we're kind of coming up on holidays, so every this season-ish, I would love to do a podcast with you and just check in with you and see how your career is developing and what you're doing and what you're finding and what lessons you're learning and, what advice you might have for students out there. Would you be up for that?
Yeah, I would love to be able to hopefully share really great things that happen in the coming years.
Well, you will. I absolutely know you will. But, I think,
Thank you.
part of the reason, again, I wanted to speak with you as well is not because I'm just so proud of you and everything that you're doing, but also you're a voice that is out there now doing what students who are just a few years behind you want to be doing. And I think it's important to hear your stories and to hear how you're doing things and what you're finding and what's working for you and what's not working for you. Those are important things, for your peers to hear from you.
Yeah, 100%. I think that if I had, had podcasts like this that I was listening to when I was in college, then it better prepare me for the not so start of a glamorous life.
Right.
Just being like, it's really okay. Like it's not a big deal. And everyone else is kind of living the same life you are.
Yeah. Well, and it has been too historically. I mean, I didn't start off any different. I started off doing stuff for free, but I'll tell you what, I still do stuff for free. If it's something I feel passionate about and if it's a service that I want to give, I still do things for free because it feels good to me to be able to maybe get experience in something new or to give something to someone. It's my way now of giving back. But I don't think doing things for free that's just what I think we do.
Yeah, especially because we love our craft so much. It's kind of like, would you still be doing this if there was no money involved? And I mean, a lot of the times for many people, the answer is yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Like people say that to me all the time. We can't believe you're still doing this. I'm like, well, what else would I be doing?
This is my purpose.
It is my purpose. Yes. I mean, hence the sort of funny twist and name of the podcast, but I think we all have to have our purpose, right? Our purpose,
Yes.
And I love this, and that's my purpose. And I think you're finding yours. Do you have a stronger idea of what your purpose is now?
Um, Man, I think it's kind of evolving, as the days go by and I get older, but I think definitely my purpose is to encourage people. And that's what I want a big focus of my artist career, is to encourage people and to help them and tell the story and, um, give people hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing, and I think that's something we could all aspire to do. In,
Mm-hmm.
my humble opinion. So, well, I think
Yeah.
there's no better way to end our discussion today and our interview, our just chat. This isn't an interview, really; it's just a chat. But I've loved everything you've shared, and I think you have such a big heart, and like you said, it really is going to give people hope and give other people an insight into some of the things that really occur out in the real world outside of college. So, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, well, tell your family, happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays to everyone, and I hope to see you again soon.
I will. Happy Thanksgiving to you too.